Hello, everyone. We are live. All right. Well, today's original show lineup got changed drastically when I woke up and found out that Val Kilmer had passed away. And because Val Kilmer was one of the greatest actors, in my opinion, of our current generation. Some of the most iconic roles he has taken. I mean, he played Jim Morrison, he played Doc Holliday, he played Batman, The Saint. I mean, there was so many movies that he slipped into and played. I mean, everybody knows him as Iceman from Top Gun and the sequel to Top Gun, and he is known for so many little roles. Willow, I mean, he was a great man, both in front of the camera and away from the camera. He was who you saw him to be. He was a kind, compassionate, and caring guy who did not make Hollywood his end all be all of everything. He had a life. He had his kids. Yeah, he had a few scandals that came up around him whenever he got a divorce, thanks to Hollywood stuff that usually destroys relationships there in Hollywood. He was a character actor par excellence. And I mean, the Jim Morrison biopic, that's actually him singing. And the producers and members of the Doors didn't want him singing it because they didn't think he could do Jim Morrison justice. So the family got with him and they mixed him singing Jim Morrison's songs and with actual recordings of Jim Morrison in front of the producers and members of the band, and they just had them intermixed and said, "Can you tell the difference?" And because they couldn't tell the difference between Val Kilmer singing and Jim Morrison himself singing, it sealed the deal. And thus, that was actually him singing throughout the movie. Unlike what happened with the Bohemian Rhapsody, uh, Freddie Mercury biopic, where the guy was lip syncing, and which I can understand why they did it because Freddie Mercury had such a unique singing voice that nobody has been able to duplicate it. I mean, the show must go on. His last recorded song he ever did before he died. He was dying from AIDS. It was so bad for Freddie Mercury, and he went out there, and when they recorded "The Show Must Go On," he drank some alcohol and then nailed it and did that song. That was the last song he ever recorded, and he nailed it. He got it perfectly, and that's the recording of "The Show Must Go On" that exists to this day. And it's something else when you've got Val Kilmer was one of the better actors of this generation. He was he showed his versatility. He showed he had so many different talents. People in my age group remembers him for so many of the little movies that he did at the start of his career. We remember him for Top Secret, which was a rockabilly spy movie satire farce that lampooned a whole bunch of different genres in it. They made fun of the Blue Lagoon. It was a really good movie. And one of the tidbits about the Top Secret movie that he did, we would not have gotten Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing in Rogue One if it hadn't been for that movie. Because Peter Cushing played a character in that movie that they had to make facial prosthesis for his character. So they had a full head casting of Peter Cushing, the actor who played Grand Moff Tarkin. So, and they were able to scan it and use it for the digitation for the reconstruction of Grand Moff Tarkin when they made a Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And it was an amazing technological feat that only happened because Peter Cushing decided he was going to star in a comedy that was making fun of a whole bunch of the movies that he had made in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And Val Kilmer was in Real Genius. He played Batman. Everybody knows he played Doc Holliday. He was the best Doc Holliday there was. I mean, him and Kurt Russell in Tombstone was like perfection. And we had him in Willow as Mad Mardigan. There was just so many movies that this man made that was just awe-inspiring and had a deep impact on pop culture. There's people that still talk about to this day, how he played Iceman in Top Gun. There's people that still can't get past the Jim Morrison biopic that he did, just how the people that knew Morrison said that he got it perfection. I mean, his own family said that he treated it with so much respect and embodied Morrison on screen. Today is a sad day because we probably won't see an actor like him for a while coming up through this ever until things get sorted out, because nowadays it's not about the talent of an actor that's getting them their movies. It's the casting of the actor because of check boxes that are getting them their roles. It's like with Zendaya. I do not understand how she is been in so many movies, and she ruined Dune and Dune 2 for me. I mean, they completely changed the ending of Dune 2 to fit what she wanted it to be and completely destroyed her character. But we've seen Hollywood try to push actors and actresses before. I mean, there was several that they pushed. Warshire, can't remember his dang name, but he was in everything for a short period of time. They even had him as one of the main characters across from Kristen Bell in the Terminator, one of the Terminator movies. I think it was Terminator Salvation. And this guy was in a whole bunch of stuff in a very short period of time, thinking he was going to be the next big thing, and it just did not go over well. And then look at Rachel Zegler. They put her in a whole bunch of stuff, and each one of those girl can sing, but the movies they put her in have all flopped.
Yeah, I remember. I think Rachel, to my knowledge, she's been in 2 movies that I know of. She was under Stephen King, or not Stephen King, Steven Spielberg. Then after
Yes.
that was Snow White, which Snow White, the entire story, not just a couple minor points, the entire freaking story was completely redone to fit what she wanted. And I've made the observation that the only thing that ties it to the original is the names of the characters.
No, most of the characters but yeah, it just it's one of those things that you're like, it's almost as if she purposely set out to destroy that movie with the way she acted while interacting with the public.
Yeah.
I mean,
Disney actually went out of their way to bar her from making any sort of public comments, and even going so far as to vet and her ex profile.
Yeah.
Like after a while, they said, "Hey, she's bad for business. Let's keep her out of the public eye." That didn't stop her.
No, it didn't. It's like I said, it almost was as if she purposely was doing her best to do that, to destroy it. And then you had
every time she opened her mouth, it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And now Snow White is sitting at a very cozy 1.5.
And they wasted so much money, it's not even funny. And you would think that they would have went the extra mile to make sure that a remake of Snow White, the movie that launched the Disney studios into the mainstream movie making extravaganza that it became, that they would have done everything in their power to make sure it celebrated the original. But they didn't. In many ways, it's like, it makes me think that Disney purposely has set out to make bad movies. And because you would think if they were just, if there was incompetence, you would actually have some really good blockbusters slipping in every now and again. But I had a conversation with someone a while back, and we were discussing the fact that a lot of the Disney stuff that was coming out, that they changed stuff to make it more agreeable for the audiences in China to watch it. And you can see that with some of the things they did to the movie posters, changing the movie posters, such as making John Boyega itty bitty. The posters for the Black Panther, where they put, instead of the Black Panther not having his helmet on, they put him in his helmet. Stuff like that. And removing things from the movie that would have offended the people of China. And and all they ended up doing was upsetting the people here at home, the people in Europe and other places around the world that would love to watch these movies. And they're like, what did you do to the movie? It's not as good as it should be.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were sitting here talking about this stuff several years ago. And it was because it was getting obvious as that was what they was doing. And then having turn around and watching China not allowing some of these movies that they purposely changed not being shown in China.
Yep. And
And
now here I'm hearing rumors that Rachel Zegler herself is being blacklisted from most, if not all, of Hollywood.
yeah, well, she's proven herself to be quite toxic.
Yeah, she's a
And
narcissist. She's a narcissist, and
mhm.
she's gone out of her way to act like a whiny little crybaby throughout this whole thing.
And
Even
she's the
going
one
so
that
far, even going so far as to, I'm hearing rumors now that she's trying to sue Disney, when in reality, most of the controversy was
is
her
hers.
fault.
Yes,
This movie, this movie
she
would not have been as big of a disaster if she had just kept her mouth shut from the beginning.
well, there's also stuff that was going on during the filming. She made the film. I can't remember what it's called. Uh, Whenever they're filming the movie with the sets, she made them toxic with her anti-Israel attacks, and she was
Yeah.
actually verbally attacking Gal Gadot and deriding her and everything. And everybody that knows Gal Gadot and has worked with Gal Gadot says that she is one of the nicest people who bends over backwards to make sure that the working relationship is good. It was so bad that the two of them, they did not she did not want to be on set with Ziegler because of how toxic Ziegler was, and that they had security set up in case Ziegler got so toxic that they had to get her off the set.
Yep.
And
And look back at what happened with the Oscars or Grammys or whatever it was a couple weeks ago, where
mhm,
they had Gal Gadot a few feet in front of Rachel Zegler, to where it looked like she was absolutely towering over her.
mhm,
And Rachel Zegler looked absolutely infuriated the whole time. Like, she looked mad.
yeah. Well, like I said, Ziegler is a very toxic person from what everybody has said. Behind the
Yep.
scenes, she's very toxic. Hell, just following her on Twitter X, you can see how toxic she is. And it would not surprise me if she is getting blacklisted in Hollywood because Hollywood can't afford it
Yep.
because she's turned off over half of the people who would be going to see a movie. Heck, there are people on the left who can't stand that woman. They see her as a spoiled brat who can't. Oh, don't give me. Oh man, I'm.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. And the worst part of it is she's playing the victim card.
Of course she is.
And she's doing what most of the wokies do when they fail. Oh, it's not my fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's the fans. Blah blah blah. Would you
Hmm.
all just shut up?
Well, they have a problem. They don't want to accept responsibility for the things they do. They accountability to them is like kryptonite is to
Superman.
Superman, and it's it's sadly extremely
This is
obvious.
and
It's
this
one of
is
the
where we're
reasons.
And this is where we're seeing the rise of the generation that was raised without discipline,
Yes.
where their parents started thinking to themselves, "Oh, I was treated this way and I didn't like it. I'm going to let my kids do whatever they want and
Hmm.
they'll turn out just fine." This is what happens when you don't control your children.
Yes. Whenever a child has never heard the word no, you can't do this, this is what we get. You
Exactly.
see, discipline hurts because it teaches consequences. Do you really think a parent likes giving their child a spanking? You don't, because it's admitting you've made a mistake. You failed as a parent, that you didn't teach your child not to do something sufficiently, not taught them not to talk back. You didn't teach them how to do this or do that, how to be respectful, and you're having to bust their butt. The one thing about having toddlers and you pop them on the butt, that diaper absorbs everything. It's just the sound of the pop that shocks them and causes them to cry. I kind of remember those days.
Yep.
I'm I'm unfortunate enough that I was born in 1971, and I can remember watching TV and seeing Richard Nixon getting on Air, Army One and flying off from the White House after he resigned his presidency. I have those memories. I have memories of me being a toddler, and they're choppy, but they're still there.
Yep.
I still have memories of them. And it's I don't know if other people have those type of memories. I've talked to several people who said that they have no memories of that far back. Hell, I've actually talked to somebody who says that they don't even remember kindergarten. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. He's like, no, I have no memory of kindergarten. I see pictures of it, but I have no memory of it.
Yep.
And I was like,
I have a
dude,
few. I have a few vague memories of my very very early years.
my
One of my
favorite memory.
earliest. One of my earliest. Actually, I confirmed this with my grandmother several years ago. I was I had a box of cereal in my hands that was open,
Hmm.
and me being a little kid, I was I think a toddler, like 4 or 5 at the time. What I ended up doing is I strung the cereal clear across the house, trying to make like a little trail to draw like a leprechaun or something like that in. And I
Mm.
think if I remember right, I think it was like Lucky Charms or something like that. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I used to do as a kid. And yeah, I got a good tongue lashing for it, and I deserved it.
Well, it's another one of my early memories was remembering when Elvis died. I was reading an Incredible Hulk comic book, watching TV, eating honeycombs cereal.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that swollen salad. I love that.
Well, Zach did that. He actually did that. No,
Yeah.
the one of the he wasn't born yet when Jack had ate half cooked chicken nuggets, and it took him almost a year to eat chicken nuggets again because he got really sick from eating those chicken nuggets because he was too impatient to wait for him to finish cooking. Oh,
Yep.
and
That's why you should. That's why you should never eat chicken. Eat raw chicken, whether it's half raw or completely raw.
yeah,
The food police are out there as late 2000s, early 2010s Food Network will tell you.
yeah. Hey Zach, do you remember the Slim Jims containers that I would buy you guys, and how y'all would eat those? Because they came in these little round containers, and Jack and Zachary, I'd give one container each to them, each one of them, and then they would get into slap fights over them. It's like I'd be like, no, you you each this is yours and this is his. Now go to the other sides of the room and eat your Slim Jims. And when I went back over there in 2008, right before the accident, there are these little beef sticks uh, that are very flavorful. You can get them. The mild is very flavorful, but you can also get the hot ones that, after eating them, your bunghole is going to be getting legal representation to sue you for having eaten them.
Yeah, the hot ones are worse than the Taco Bell Diablo sauce. Well, I'm not gonna go that far, but yeah.
But yeah,
One of the one of the other earliest memories I have is actually the day my grandmother on my father's side passed away.
hmm
That was one of those days I remember every detail of. I could tell you exactly what time it was. I could tell you what I had for breakfast that day.
Stop, you're making me like British food. Hey, British food's got some really spicy stuff too. Now, the curries, oh man, there's some really good curry foods from over there that's like really, really spicy that I love. There was a Gurkha restaurant that wasn't that far from where I was staying, and these little Gurkhas saw me in my wheelchair, and they were like, because I was looking and going, I really want some Gurkha food because I had Gurkha food back when I was in the Navy. And the guy goes, "You know, we have no problem with this." And they helped me stand up and go up the steps, and then they brought my wheelchair in, set me down, and fed me. And when I came time to pay, they only charged me like half because of it. And because I was sitting there looking around at all the stuff that they had on the walls of all the Gurkha military, the Royal Gurkha rifle stuff that was all over the place. And I was sitting there talking to this little Gurkha guy, and it turned out he actually served with the Gurkhas. And I was telling about how one of my friends who was a Gurkha gave me one of his curries. Well, not curry, but his Gurkha, the big knife. And he's like, "Why did he give you the knife?" And I was like, "Well, we saved each other's lives." And he's like, "Oh." And after that, they were bringing me food all the time. It was great. And except for the fact that my body was like, as I was going to the bathroom, was like going, "You bastard, you bastard." It might have tasted good going in, but it hurts coming out. And I'm like, "It's Gurkha food. Leave me alone."
I have only ever had that particular problem with spicy food twice in my life. And neither time did it involve Taco Bell. Actually, the last time it happened, it actually involved Culver's, where I currently work. And their food isn't even that spicy.
Yeah, I like the Culver's fish sandwich. And I've
Yeah,
gotten to where I like their burgers because we've got a Culver's uh, in Monroe now, and
yeah,
every now and again we'll make a trip out there because I really love y'all's onion rings.
yeah. They got good onion rings. Actually, the first thing I've worked at Culver's for 3 years. The first thing I ever got there was a three-piece walleye dinner with onion rings, and I got the last three pieces of walleye they had for that season.
Yeah.
You ever
Well,
had the walleye?
no, I've not had that yet. I've had
That's
their
a
cod.
the walleye is a limited time. It's only around during Lent.
Hmm.
So from February to March, but it's one of those things where the instant you hear about it, the instant they first get it in, you got to go in right then and get it, or you ain't getting it at all.
Yeah.
Because the one here where I'm at here in Winter Haven, we run out like that.
Yeah.
We run out within a couple of weeks. That's how fast. That's how fast we fly through it. It's really popular.
Hmm. Oh,
And
that's
we have some people who come exclusively for the walleye. Like the
wow.
day after we ran out, I was unlocking the doors that day when we opened. I had
Hmm.
a guy get out of his truck say, "Hey, do you guys still have walleye?" I said, "No, sir. We ran out yesterday." He said goodbye and then got back in his truck and left.
Yeah. I love rally burgers, but we don't have it in this area. All right, son, be careful.
We have a we have a rallies, or well, down here we call it Checkers,
Yeah.
but we have a Checkers uh, up the street from us, and the one we have here in Winter Haven is trash.
Yeah. That's it. We had that problem with Popeyes because we actually had a Popeyes in Monroe.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it started out strong, and I mean, all the other chicken joints were suffering. But as time passed, the good employees left, and then they got bad employees, and the quality dropped off so hard, so fast that people pretty much said, "Yeah, the biscuits are still good, but the chicken is half cooked."
yeah. I had the same
And
problem with Boston Market. There's
because
a Boston there's a Boston Market right in front. Well, used to be a Boston Market right in front of where I live.
mhm,
I worked there for 1 week. Found out what I did about the company, like the
mhm,
actual corporation. I saw the state of the building and how three-fourths of the equipment did not work.
yeah,
Within a week, I left. 2 days later, they closed.
yeah. Well, Boston Market, from what they're saying, as a company, is on its last legs. That
Well,
they've,
that makes sense considering when I worked there, they were owned and operated by two brothers out of India.
yeah. Well, welcome back, son. But like I said, Rally Burgers, I love their fries and their milkshakes because their banana milkshakes were to die for. That Rally's was one of my places I loved going to when I was in the Navy. Anytime I left the base, that was one of the three places to eat that I would have to hit. The other was a sandwich shop that literally was just about a quarter of a mile from the main gate, and it was a sandwich shop that was a sub shop, and it was actually run by some former submariners. But they had Carolina barbecue sandwiches.
Mm.
Now, think of a foot long submarine sandwich filled with Carolina barbecue, shredded pork, and coleslaw with just the right amount of salt and pepper on the coleslaw. And then the honey barbecue sauce that's drizzled over it. and just a drizzling of the mustard sauce.
Man,
Damn.
you are making me crave a barbecued pork tenderloin.
Oh, oh,
Now, me being from Indiana, I love me a good tenderloin.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
they have tenderloins at Culver's, but I miss the ones we had up back at home, like the big ones, the real ones. Because
well,
we had some up there that got to be the size of pizza boxes.
well. You've also got okay. Carolina barbecue is pork barbecue. Is like it melts in your mouth, and then you've got Texas barbecue, which is almost exclusively beef barbecue. Then you got Kansas City barbecue, which is both. Now, I've started learning how to do beef barbecue because I did a big batch of Carolina pulled pork barbecue 2 weeks ago because I
Oh,
was wanting to get stuff to because I see the summer coming. HeroCon is in June. I'm making you that hungry, Bubba.
you're making me drool, man.
Okay, now Heroes Con is in June, June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And my little sister, my baby sister, my niece, and my nephew were all wanting to hit it. Uh, we were hoping Zachary would be here for it, but I don't think he's going to be able to make it. But okay, you be good, son. We are in the process of lining up to rent a cargo van. That way we can take my scooter so my little sister Laura Jane can use it, and because she broke her femur, and she's like, "Oh, I can just hobble around with my walker," and I'm like, "No, you can't. Go look up the website and see how big the convention center floor is, where all of the store stuff is at that you're going to be going and looking at. You're not going to be able to handle that." So we're going to rent a van so we all can get up there with the cart and all of the stuff that we're going to be taking with us, namely food. So we don't have to spend a buttload of money on the food that they sell at the little snack shacks that they've got.
Yeah.
Ditto with taking something to drink with us because the, whenever the snack shack cups are tiny little cups, and you're paying the price that you would normally pay for like mega gulp cups anywhere else. Plus the fact that I like taking Gatorade with me for the people that are doing the full body cosplays, especially those that are dressed up as Mandalorians and Space Marines. People in full body suits, because that thing, they're sweating like crazy. So, and whenever I see them, I always hand them a Gatorade. Here you go. You're going to need this. And they're like, "Oh my God, this is the best tasting Gatorade I've ever had. It means I must have really needed it." And I said, "Yeah." And because there was this one family, a father, a mother, and their kids, they were all dressed as Mandalorians 4 years ago at the con. And they were going by and they're like, "Oh, shoot," because they got to the tables where the tables were at, where there was chairs, and there wasn't enough chairs for everybody. So I got up and they're like, "No, no, no, no." And I'm like, "No, you need this." And I pushed the chair to him. And they took, when they took their helmets off, they were all like sweat pouring off of them. And I was like, "Y'all need something to drink." And they're like, "Yeah, but we don't have enough money for the concession stands." And I just broke out my the 8-pack of Gatorade, put it on the table, and just started handing them Gatorade bottles. And they're like, "Here, we'll give you some money for it." And I'm like, "No, this is a gift." And they were like, "Oh my God, thank you." And like I said, that when they drank them, they were like It was like, this tasted so damn good, so we must have really needed it. I'm like, yeah, you did. Uh, and I said, keep the bottles. That way you can take it to the over there to the water fountains and fill them up with water. That way you'll have water and not have to pay for it. And having three Mandalorians give you a hug just for doing a common piece of human decency is amazing, you know? And that's just, like I said, it's common human decency. Do good, and they will do good. And that's how you make the world a better place. But yeah, working on recipes of foods that can be made to be taken is what I've been working on.
Yeah.
And I've been practicing making pulled beef barbecue uh, to go alongside with the pulled pork. And I mean, I've done Korean barbecue beef in the past, but I'm trying to do something that's not the Korean barbecue, because that can get really really hot if you don't do it, if you're not careful. But but like I said, it's life is something that we all need to understand. It's not easy. It's not meant to be easy. You know, you're supposed to have things that you've got to overcome. You have to adapt it and overcome it. That's what makes you a well-rounded human. And so many kids today who have been just handed stuff and have never been told no, you end up with what we've got today.
Yeah. And
And
me, I'm very accustomed to being told no
mhm,
because being raised by my grandmother, I got no's most of the time.
mhm.
Mainly because most of the stuff I wanted to do was outlandish and stupid.
Well, with me, the no's usually came about because my parents didn't have the money to do it. So I would end up getting sent to go stay with my grandparents who had some money to let me go do stuff. That's what that allowed me to be able to do the Boy Scouts for a little while. Um, I was able to do after school activities with my grandparents because they had the money for it when my parents didn't. And they're just being raised by both my parents and my grandparents was eye opening. You know, it's getting to see. I learned from my grandparents the lessons that they had learned. And I learned also from my great grandmother the lessons that she had learned during the Great Depression. And in many ways, I think it's one of the reasons why I like so much old movies. I like older music. Um, I mean, how many people do you know that love big band music nowadays? I
Not many.
I, I adore it. I mean, Glenn Miller was always somebody I looked up to, and the fact that they now think that they found him, I was so excited. I was like, "Hey, dude, did you hear that they think that they found Glenn Miller?" And they're like, "Who?"
Yeah.
And
It kind of reminds me of that conspiracy theory about Elvis, how he faked his own death, and then they supposedly a homeless guy died a few years back, and they think that that was the real Elvis.
yeah, it's insane. Some of the stuff. I mean, with Glenn Miller, the he got climbed into a plane and was flying to France that had been liberated so he could entertain the troops and the liberated French, and never got there. And they think, like I said, they think they have they were doing some deep sea scans with new technology there in the English Channel, and they think that they found his plane. It's the same make, same model, and they're hoping that they had found them.
Yeah.
And which to me is, for the longest time, everybody knew he was dead. It's just the fact, where did he go? There's still the question of what caused the plane to go down, because the Luftwaffe, when he disappeared, everybody was trying to say that the Luftwaffe shot him down, and the Luftwaffe was like going, "No, we didn't have nobody up at the time. We didn't have the gas to get somebody up."
Yeah, it reminds me of a few years ago how they thought they had found Amelia Earhart, but it turns out it was just a rock formation.
Yeah. Well, with the stuff that has been coming out of Argentina lately, I'm like going, "You got to be kidding me!" Because Argentina is actually saying that, yeah, they Hitler did not kill himself in the bunker, but he had somehow made his way to Argentina to live out his life, and had 2 daughters while he lived in Argentina.
Yeah, I highly doubt that. Somebody as narcissistic and evil as that, I highly doubt it.
Now,
Somebody like him wouldn't be able to keep his mouth shut that long.
Well, it's possible, because even Stalin didn't believe that that Hitler had killed himself. And the bones that they think was that the Soviets were sitting there going, "These are Hitler's bones." Well, they tested them recently, and it turned out to be a woman's bones.
Really?
And yeah, and like I said, it's wild, but there's been really intense conspiracy theories that the intelligence communities of the world kind of knew that he was there, and pretty much left him alone. Which I'm like, holy shit! That'd be one of those things of if anybody was going to be hunted down and have a cat popped in their ass, it'd be Hitler. But yeah, I'm actually going to be looking into it to see just if it's true or not, because the new government there in Argentina has been declassifying stuff left and right and releasing it, kind of like what Trump's wanting to do.
Yeah.
But even then, all the stuff for the JFK files, there's still stuff that they've redacted the hell out of that everybody's like going, wait. Trump's like, no, I want this released.
Yep.
Take it back and release the whole thing, because he made the promise to RFK to get all this information out, and he promised us this information is going to come out, because there's no reason to keep it hidden anymore.
Especially since, how many decades ago was it now?
Yep.
At this point, they're keeping quiet about it simply because they don't want people to know, for the sake of well, we don't want the public to have knowledge of history.
Yeah. And to me, that's one of the reasons why there's so little trust in the government and its various agencies today, is the fact that there's no transparency and no accountability. Not just when it comes to the people that they've put in charge of those agencies, but the bureaucrats who run and operate them. I've used this term before: unelected and unaccountable.
Yep.
they are able to get away with murder. Literally, they've gotten away with murder with this stuff.
And
And
worse.
yeah, and it's just totally messed up. And it's not just in the United States, it's any government is this way.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons. Do you remember the first Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie soundtrack song by Nicolette called "No Government"?
Vaguely.
That is one of the most wonderful songs on earth, because it says that if there was no government, the people would be happy, because you wouldn't have the government doing all the screwed up stuff that the government does.
Yep. You can't have the government spying on you and stealing your information if there's no government.
Exactly. And I'm to that point to that it's like the founding fathers said, government is an unfortunate necessity. It's like fire, you know?
Yeah.
When it's controlled, it's good. But if you let it get out of control, it's very, very bad. And that's the way
Yep.
government is. Our government has gotten to a size that is totally out of control. And we got to do something about it, because there's so many different government agencies. It's not the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. It's literally the right hand doesn't know what the right pinky, the right ring finger, the right middle finger, and the
Yeah.
right index finger and thumb are doing at any given time.
Yeah. Each individual finger is its own independent government.
Yeah, and that's why we need to clean house and get rid of a lot of the bureaucratic BS that's running the show.
Yeah.
But we've gone off on one hell of a tangent. Get back to where we were at, Val Kilmer. You said that there's several of the movies that I had mentioned offline on Discord about some of the movies that he had made that
Yeah.
you've never heard of.
I have, however, seen Top Gun. That was actually one of the first movies I ever remember watching, and it goes down as one of my all-time favorites.
Well, Top Secret is funny. It doesn't take it. They're giving all their lines as serious as they can, but the movie is satire. It is lampooning. I mean, it's like Airplane lampooning, and it's funny, and I think you'll enjoy it. If I remember right, you can easily find it on the streaming services. I think they've got it on. Shoot, I streamed it not that long ago, and I can't remember which service it was on. But
I can probably find it. I have a website that I go to called F Movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I could probably find it on there.
But there's several of his movies that most people don't know about, and Top Secret is one of them. He sings in it. He sounds like Elvis, and it's Top Secret is literally an Elvis. If Elvis had made a super spy movie back in the day, in many ways, that they
Why
then
does that
lampoon.
sound? Why does that sound like something exactly like something him or Weird Al Yankovic would do?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a really good, funny movie. If y'all are listening out there in the great wide wonder, please watch it. It's funny, and there's stuff in it that you see nowadays used in memes. Okay, They're being used in memes. Uh, like the clam shaker, which is this big, huge marital device. Uh, but they also made fun of the Blue Lagoon and a couple of other really funny bits, and it's hilarious. Um, and then you've got some of his serious movies that he did that was like really good. I mean, he was one of the best Batman actors, and a lot of people. Hi, Rafe. How you doing? Yeah, Raffaella, you did. You heard the clam shaker joke.
Val Kilmer, Batman. Let me see which one that
If I
was.
remember right, it was Batman. Yes.
Batman Forever. I've seen that movie.
And he was actually picked for the role by the creator of Batman. And that's something that most people, because the creators of Batman said Val Kilmer looked like Batman and Bruce Wayne.
I can actually remember. Now, Batman Forever is considered one of the most hated movies of all time, but I actually remember absolutely loving it as a kid.
Yeah, it was fun. I wasn't a kid; I was an adult, but I thought it was a fun, good movie.
Yeah.
The only thing only thing I really disagreed with on the casting was who they picked for Robin, because he looked too old for Robin. But that's just me.
I think if it's, I don't remember if it was in the same movie, but I think this the one, or was it Batman and Robin where they cast Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze?
Yeah, that was Batman and Robin had Mr. Freeze. Is that
yeah?
Batman Forever is the one that had perfection in casting when it came to Two-Face as Tommy Lee Jones and
Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Yes, and the two of them were perfect. They stole the whole movie. That's how perfectly attuned they were. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't like Batman Forever, was because the villain stole the movie. But in a Batman movie, the villains have to be able to do that.
Yep.
Because it's just, I'm a cinephile. I admit it. I'm also a comic book fan. And Batman, while he's not my number one fandom of comic books, I still like Batman. Batman needs to be challenged. That's just the way he's supposed to be. He prepares ahead of time for a lot of different contingency plans, but that was the whole point of Batman Forever, was that Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face and Jim Carrey's Riddler completely were coming out of chaos field, and he couldn't plan for it. And that's what made that movie good for me, was it kept Batman on his toes. Now, I like Chris O'Donnell. He's a good actor. But I didn't think that he was good as a good fit for the young Robin. Like I said, Robin was supposed to have been early teen or a preteen when his parents died. And Val Kilmer was the only blonde to ever play Batman, unless
I think it was Val Kilmer who sparked Val Kilmer and Batman Forever that sparked my love of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being exposed to Batman the Animated Series with Kevin Conroy
Yep.
that cemented Batman as my favorite hero of all time.
Kevin Conroy was the perfect voice for Batman.
Yes,
He that's the voice in my head whenever I read Batman comics.
absolutely. Kevin
And
Conroy. Kevin Conroy was, even among Batman critics, widely acclaimed to be the best Batman of all the different incarnations.
mhm.
Of all the different actors or voice actors to play Batman, Kevin Conroy is considered the Batman. And Mark Hamill, his counterpart, is considered the Joker.
Yep.
To the point that Mark Hamill, whenever he's asked to play the Joker, the first and only question he ever asked was, "Is Kevin Conroy Batman?" Yes, count me in. No, thank you for the opportunity anyway.
Yeah. And when because I remember the year before he passed away, he came out as announced his sexuality, and people were talking about it on Facebook, and I said, "Oh, good for him," but it shouldn't. His sexuality should have no bearing on how he performs
Is
his
yes,
self as an actor, be it a voice actor or physical acting. His acting is all that matters. He carries the role on the strengths of his acting, not who he sleeps with. And that statement got several hearts to it. And the first one that hearted it was guess who?
Mark Hamill.
No, Kevin Conroy himself hearted it
Of
because,
course.
and I was like, whoa, okay, Kevin Conroy likes my statement, and I was like, but that's just me. I don't care who you sleep with, as long as you're not sleeping with me at the same time,
Yeah.
and it's not a child or an animal who can't consent.
Yeah.
Anything after that,
Yeah.
you
That's like me. That's like me. I don't care what walk of life you're from. You could be a you could be a you could be an Islamic, you could be a Yahtzee sympathizer, you could be any walk of life. I don't care. Long as you're nice to me, long as you're respectful of me, long as we get along, I will be your best friend.
yeah, as long as you treat people with respect, it's like I've said before, tolerance is a two-way street. Respect is a two-way street.
Yep.
If you want me to respect you, you respect me. If you
Respect
want me to,
must be earned.
exactly. I, to me, I look at humanity in a way that most people don't. I can see how I can see how hurt people hurt other people, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But when you've hurt somebody so badly that it's ruined their life, you still have to get punished for it, and that just breaks me. But anyway, back to Val Kilmer. There's another couple of the movies that he did. I mean, I loved him in Willow, and I know in the TV show that they did. Oh God, that horrible, horrible show that they had on Disney Plus. The fact that I was upset with how they treated Mad Mardigan in that. That his whole redemption arc got thrown away, just like what they did with Han Solo in the sequels. That still upsets the heck out of me. And but I look at these roles that Val Kilmer did and the effects that they have had. Even his worst movies were still good movies because he was in them. There was this one movie, I can't remember the name of it, but he played a disabled Marine who had lost his leg. And in many ways, it was a Rambo type movie where he played a disabled Marine who runs afoul of a bunch of douchebags wearing police uniforms and badges. And it's set on the border, and it had to do with dealing with coyotes bringing, uh, human smuggling across the border. And one of his Marines that he had served with was from that area and had been killed, trying to find out who was in doing all the human smuggling. And this movie was really good, and it was before he had his throat cancer issues. And they did some pretty good special effects for the fact that his character had lost his leg. And they did the special effects of erasing his leg whenever the corrupt cop stole his prosthetic and was hosing him down with a fire hose. And it was a good movie, but it was one of those movies that it was an independent movie that was outside Hollywood that he helped get made. And it didn't get the reach that it should have gotten or the recognition it should have gotten because it was an indie movie that was outside of Hollywood, and it was about a subject Hollywood didn't want to touch. Heck, it's still a topic that Hollywood doesn't really want to touch, as we saw with The Sound of Freedom. But we've got the Jason Statham movie that just came out called The Working Man, who's the main bad guys in it. Super rich human traffickers. That
Yeah.
having the super rich being the ones doing it made it to where Hollywood is going to make the movie because they're able to have the bad guy that they want it to be a whole bunch of rich old white guys that have a shit ton of money,
Because of course.
But Val Kilmer did that type of a movie a long time ago. And like I said, because it was done by independents outside of the Hollywood system. And the fact, look at Bill Murray. He's been doing, whenever he does most of the movies he does nowadays, has been independent stuff. The only reason why I think that he did the Ghostbuster movies is the fact that it was something that he believed in. And I'm like, there it is, And I know Bill Murray was on Joe Rogan a while back talking about how he couldn't get over the fact that Richard Nixon had been framed with the information that had been released.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, okay. And Val Kilmer, he was a good guy. He did things for the people around him. He cared about the people that were around him. In many ways, he would do the same thing that Robert Downey Jr. did when it came to the MCU. He cut his own paycheck so that other actors would get more money, And it's just losing him is to me, is a big loss to humanity as a whole, because we just like, damn, he's not here anymore, and it's really sad. And yeah,
You can
it
add
breaks my
him
heart.
to the list of legends that we've lost over the last few years.
Yeah, this year we also lost Richard Chamberlain, and heck, we lost Richard Chamberlain last week. I think it was the 28th that he passed away.
Yeah.
And Richard Chamberlain, he played in Shogun, the miniseries Shogun, the first one.
Yeah.
Dr. Kildare But I loved him as Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of
No.
Gold and King Solomon's Mines. Uh, the only other actor that's played Alan Quartermain that I really liked was Sean Connery when he
Yeah,
made
from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
yeah.
which if I remember correctly, I think was one of his last roles, if not his very last role.
Yes, that was the last time he made a movie because it
Yeah.
was while making that movie he realized that he was losing his mental faculties,
Yeah.
which is sad because originally he was going to be making a sequel. He was willing to make a sequel to it because he liked it. He liked the role, but it he wasn't able to do it, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen didn't make bank the way they hoped it was going to make bank because they were hoping to be able to have a blockbuster series, kind of like what they did with we're hoping with Wild Wild West with Will Smith and the guy that played Artemis Paxton. No, not Pax. The other Bill Pullman. That's it. And it didn't go over well, even though they went balls to the wall with uh, advertising and everything with Wild Wild West, but they didn't really do the same with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen that they could have done. Um, but dang, that, like I said, Richard Chamberlain was the reason why I'm bringing him up was he was one of my mom's favorite actors that she had a crush on, and he was he was an amazing. I bought a ticket to see Wild Wild West and snuck into Beavis and Butthead and said, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
Yep.
Now, if they had, my only issue with Wild Wild West was the only things that was the same as the TV show was the names. Everything else they changed.
Yeah, I remember watching the Will Smith version of Wild Wild West, and I thought it was really weird. Like the coolest part to me was the gigantic mechanical robot spider they threw in.
Yeah,
But other than that, it just felt like a jumbled mess.
yeah. Kevin Smith had a really good comment on that one because Kevin Smith was wanting to do a Superman movie, and the guy that was going to produce it was talking about, well, we need to get a spider in this, because spiders are so super strong. So imagine a giant spider fighting Superman, and that ended up. He says, so he was trying to figure out how to pull that off, and it just didn't work out. And then it showed the same producer ends up doing Wild Wild West and puts in the giant mechanical spider, and that was
It
it was
was so stupid.
yeah, and I was like, okay, that's different. But I, I, if you take the movie and just see it as it is on its own, it's okay. Uh, it's if it would have been its own thing and not them trying to shoehorn it into the Wild Wild West, I think it would have actually done a good.
Yeah.
But the Robert Conrad Wild Wild West was, I watched that growing up because it was on syndication. And whenever I would get home from school, a lot of times it would be on. Heck, the weekends they would run it. Uh, Especially during the summer months, they would run it. And I'd sit and watch it on this little black and white TV in my grandparents' kitchen, sitting on a stool with this little tiny TV and watch it. And every now and again, whenever my granddad would come in and see me watching it, he goes, "That's still on." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "I watched that when it first came out. They're still showing it." And I was like, "Yeah, it's." And he goes, well, "What do you think of it?" And I said, "I like it. I like the guy playing this guy." And he's like, "Oh, there's a whole bunch of shows you're going to enjoy."
Yep.
And he was right. I loved watching him on Baba Black Sheep. Uh, there was one where he played a firefighter that was really good. And I mean, these shows back then, they had a big impact on pop culture. Uh, I know the Baba Black Sheep, showing World War II and how things were in the Pacific. And I thought that was pretty cool. Uh, and I watched it a lot. And yeah, unfortunately, the attempts to do remakes is isn't new. It's been around for a very long time. It usually pops up when it looks like they're about to lose the rights to the IP. And in many ways, some of these movies, that's the reason why they get made, is just to so they can keep the IP from going into the public domain.
Yep.
And I mean, most of the time, whenever they make those movies, they used to make that movie, and if they didn't think it was going to be that good and make money, they would lock it up and put it in the vault. It's like the first Fantastic Four movie that Roger Corman made that nobody has seen except for the leaked stuff that got out, and people that saw the leaked one was like going, it was actually pretty good. But
that actually surprises me, given the Fantastic Four's history of lackluster, to put it nicely, movies.
well, I like the first two that had Chris Evans playing the Fantastic, uh, the Human Torch, and had
Yeah.
Chiklis playing the Thing. I like those. I just think that the scripts could have been a lot stronger. And it's like I've said before, a lot of times a movie will rise or fall on the script. And that to me was one of the things about those first two Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
Was the scripts just weren't good enough. I mean, they didn't stay as true to the comics as they should have. If they would have stayed true to the comics, I think those two movies would have went extremely well. Especially the whole Doom Reed dynamic that they they screwed up with there.
And now with Robert Downing Jr.
Yes, the Heat,
playing
Val Kilmer's Heat, they remade.
Yeah.
And there's so many really good things. I mean, Val Kilmer did, and I'm hurting. I actually cried this morning when I read it that he had died because, like I said, he was one of my favorite actors. He was also one of my go-tos for body models whenever it came to any for character artwork. He just had the gravitas of and the versatility to where he can make himself look like somebody entirely different just by his manner of speaking, the way he moved. Uh, yeah, it's sad that we've lost him to pneumonia. I mean, he defeated cancer, and we lost him to pneumonia.
Ironic.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the transition. I ended up missing the transition to go over to talk for you to talk about Coyote versus Acme
Yeah,
because of the
we
whole.
went off on a long tangent. We went we went this way. We went this way. Back this way to try to get back on track. Now we're back where we started.
Yeah. Well, my transition was going to be about the Fantastic Four Roger Corman movie. You know how they shelved
Yeah,
it, and for the longest time, from everything I've read about Coyote versus Acme, it looked like that's what they were going to do with that movie.
yeah, and
And
that's
then
what they had planned. They originally planned to just lock it in a vault and let it and never show it to public. I wouldn't have been the least bit surprised if they just simply destroyed the footage after creating it.
yeah. Well, wasn't
But
there another live action animated WB movie that they did that with? That they filmed it and it never got released.
I don't know. I do know there was a couple they did before that were released. Other than the two Space Jam movies, they did have.
It was the
I think it was
it
Looney
was
Tunes on the
the
Loose or something like that.
the sequel that they made of the Looney Tunes movie that had Brandon Fraser in it. I think the sequel was the one that they never released.
There's something about. Hang on. Me. Google is our friend here. Live action Looney Tunes movies. Looney Tunes Back in Action. Back in Action was the one with Brendan Fraser in it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that was one of the was before he ended up taking a hiatus from making movies.
yeah, it had
And most people don't even know the reasons behind why he took a hiatus from making movies. It wasn't just the fact that his marriage kind of went to pot. It was also the fact that he got SA'd
yeah.
and nobody believed him when he told them about it. But Terry Crews stood up about how it happened to him
Wait
and
a
was
minute.
telling.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for the list of Looney Tunes feature films.
Yeah.
Right after Coyote versus Acme, which is set for a 2026 release, says co-production under Warner Brothers Pictures Animation. There's an untitled film with a release date to be announced.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually genuinely shocked about that.
Well, the Looney Tunes is some of my favorite cartoons. It's just the fact that most of the Looney Tunes stuff, they're not they because of the Wokies, they've basically shelved them because they're like, oh, these make fun of people too much, and it triggers people, which drives me nuts. I mean,
You're gonna love this. The Coyote versus Acme, under where it says co-production,
mm-hmm.
it says Warner Brothers Pictures Animation, 2 monkeys, a goat, another dead monkey. I actually took a picture of that. I'm gonna send you that picture in Discord because it's funny.
Cool.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, I've talked to several people that we were like, why so much of the stuff that we grew up watching has literally been locked away so nobody will see it. And there was a sci-fi movie that had James Spader in it, where he was a recovering drug addict, and he was the pilot navigator of a rescue ship, and the captain of the rescue ship was watching old Looney Tunes cartoon and Tom and Jerry cartoons, and writing a dissertation and thanking the people in charge that they allowed him to watch these old cartoons to talk about how psychopathic people were in the olden days to watch these cartoons and think that they were
Yeah.
funny. And they were putting that in there to show absurdity and how absurd that would be. And but unfortunately we're living that today, because there are actual people who write those type of uh, doctorate papers and are seriously saying that to have enjoyed these cartoons made people psychotic. The problem was those cartoons didn't make us psychotic because, well, we actually have a brain and know they're not true and not real.
Yep.
So we weren't strapping dynamite to other people or stuffing dynamite up somebody's butt, you know?
Or shoving it down their throat.
Exactly. And I'm like, what the hell? How did we go from people being able to go, uh-oh, I've made a mistake, and take responsibility for making that mistake and accepting the responsibility of the punishment for that mistake, to it ain't my fault, it's their fault. Like the little blue-haired dude that was speeding alongside the Tesla driver, screaming at him, calling him driving a Nazi car and all this other stuff, and then the dude runs over a woman and her baby, and then is blaming the guy who was driving the Tesla and Elon Musk and Trump for him running over the mom and her baby. You know?
Yeah. I have a strong feeling. Didn't that go to court?
Not yet. It just
No.
happened.
Ah.
You can
I have a
you can
strong,
actually
I have a
watch.
strong feeling if it does go to court, that guy is going to get laughed out of court, and it is going to have people laughing at him in prison.
Yeah. Well, the type of dude he is, he's going to be popular in prison. They'll be calling him her. They'll be like, "You're princess now," if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But these they've allowed their irrational hatreds to overwhelm their rational mind and their common human decency. That's why I keep saying we need to share the things we love with others. We need to pass on good to other people. We need to do good deeds in hopes that it will inspire those that see those good deeds to do the same thing in their lives, to actually care about the other people. By the left has been able to dehumanize us to a point where killing somebody or threatening to kill somebody or threatening violence on somebody, vandalizing somebody else's property is all good and wonderful. It's like these people that are trying to make Luigi, what's his name, into some type of a hero
Yeah.
when he's a murderer. He walks up behind somebody and shoots him. That's not heroic. That's not something to be celebrated. That's something to look at and go, that's a coward. A coward does that. And it's frustrating.
I have a buddy of
And
mine up in Pennsylvania. His catchphrase is, "How can you have common sense when sense isn't common?"
yeah, we've got to that point now where people who have common sense, I mean, one of the earliest memes was a tombstone with common sense listed on it as a meme for a long, long time. Hey, Cash. And it's insane that we've got to this point nowadays. But it's like I've said, it's like with what's his name? who played Wesley on Star Trek, Will Wheaton. The dude is a douchebag, pure and simple. But like a lot of the people that was on Next Generation who've come out talking about how they're happy when people that voted in a way they didn't like died, are people that lived in a state that went for the different party where people there died from something that was a natural disaster that was totally out of everybody's wheelhouse to think would happen. Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of the whole thing with Kyle Gass and Jack Black from last year, I think it was. I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad, how evil, how wicked the person is. I don't care how much you hate or disagree with someone. It is never, never, under any circumstances, okay to wish harm or ill on someone.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is.
Well, look at, okay, multiple assassinations attempts should wake people up that something's going on here, that the people in power that have been fueling this need to stop it. They need to take accountability and get some slaps in their back of their head. Yes, but the Revolutionary War didn't have assassinations going on. And there's an entirely different way of doing things. To get to the shooting part of the Revolutionary War, it was almost 40 years to get there. And the founders had spent decades trying to use every other method other than the cartridge box to get through to the British government, because they saw themselves as British citizens. They saw themselves, and they were patriotic about it. And so they sent Ben Franklin to London in an attempt to get the British to actually listen to us. And one of the most brilliant minds of his age was Ben Franklin. But in the UK, in London, he was seen as a colonial, a second-class citizen. Even though they knew he was so brilliant, but they did not think of it. Even today, I don't want to see people shooting each other, especially today. We don't need to do that. We have these things called words. But as I have said before, one side has become completely dominated by those who have allowed their irrational hatreds to overwhelm rational minds and basic common human decency. And there's no real way for that. You can't negotiate with people like that.
There are no rational minds anymore.
And we're terrified because they're going around and attacking people just because they're driving a Tesla car. Okay. The majority of the people who bought Teslas lean to the left. They bought into the whole EV saving the world, even though the batteries for these EV cars are more dangerous and deadly to the environment than gas guzzling cars. Hell, in my opinion, lead gasoline cars were better for the environment than a lot of these electric cars because of what it takes to make the car and the battery, and just how dangerous those batteries are to the environment. We've got to that point where so many people who have never faced accountability for their actions are out there now calling for violence. And a good majority of those people calling for violence has never actually seen violence, real violence, up close and personal. As far as they are concerned, violence is Call of Duty, uh, Assassin's Creed type stuff. It's a game to them. They've never actually seen true bloodshed and violence and death and destruction. Now, the lithium mining alone is some nasty stuff. Do you see what it does to the children that they've got digging that stuff up with their bare hands? It's not good. Believe me, it's some really nasty stuff. And the technology isn't mature enough to phase out coal plants, nuclear power plants, or gas-powered internal combustion engines. The technology hasn't matured enough yet. And considering the fact that the windmills kill more birds than anything else, the solar panels are being put. They're clear cutting forests to put these things up instead of doing the smart thing and putting them on top of buildings and using them as putting them up over parking lots and things of this nature. That's how I know this isn't really about the environment. It's about control, controlling people, controlling what they think, what they feel, and how they act. And we've allowed it.
If people will take time to get their heads out of these for even just a few seconds,
yeah,
they'll find out this does not set them free. All it is a prison without bars.
Exactly. As a society, that's where we've reached. We've reached a point to where the lies have become the truths, and truth has become assaults and attacks. Well, true, Cash. All right, son, you be good. Have blessed dreams. But the Coyote versus ACME, the fact that they're releasing it is really something, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Now that I've heard it's actually going to get released.
Yeah. Release date of 2026, bought up by Catch Up Entertainment for $50 million. So,
I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
And the fact
I hope it ends up being on multiple streaming services, which should include Tubi. Because Tubi, Tubi's 100% free. So
the Looney Tune movie, Coyote versus ACME. It's the one where it's live action mixed with animation.
Yeah,
it looks. All the pictures I had saw from it that had been leaked, it looked like it was going to be a good movie, and then they said that they were going to just shelve it, and I was like, "What the heck?"
Yeah, and they had. But they had Warner Brothers had essentially buried the hatchet on it and and they've sold the right. They've now sold the rights to the movie.
Yeah.
So
So the things that I'd been hearing that Warner Brothers was actually going to sell Looney Tunes off, it was just this movie and not all of Looney Tunes.
that I don't know. I do know they sold. I do know they sold the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know about anything else.
Because I mean, Looney Tunes has been there with Warner Brothers for forever. I mean,
Yeah, Warner Brothers is what launched. It's what they're best known for. It's their flagship franchise.
yeah. And I mean, I know when I'm just in shock that there's a lot of stuff that they could be putting out that that people have been begging them to put out that they've not put out. I mean, if they
Yeah,
really wanted to make a lot of money in a short period of time, all they would have to do is re-release all of the Looney Tunes catalog on Blu-ray and DVD, or
if they did
hell,
that, if they
or
did
or
that, it would be heavily censored and edited.
no, if they really want to make the money, no censoring, no editing. If they really wanted to make money on the streaming service, they should do what Disney originally said Disney Plus was going to be. And because originally they said Disney Plus was going to be a way that you could watch on as a streaming service all of the Disney backlog.
Yeah,
You'd be able to stream it all the old cartoons, the black and white ones that got Disney its start. They were all supposed to be on Disney Plus, so you can stream them all. And as we've seen, that's not what they did. But if Warner Brothers really wanted to make that money back, they would set up their streaming service that way. It's like, okay, here's a section that's just the Looney Tunes that you can if you really wanted to be a jackass about it, okay, this is the streaming service for just the Looney Tunes. This is the streaming service for just this. This is the streaming service for just that. Or if they really, 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 really wanted to make the money, they would go to places like Netflix, Hulu, the places that where it's got a little bit of everything, they're hosting other people's stuff
yeah,
in streaming services, because that's how you really make your money on streaming is you put your stuff on a streaming service like Netflix, like Hulu. You don't start your own, because Disney's proven that, HBO's proven that. These streaming services are not making the same type of money that they thought they were going to make, like Netflix and Hulu, because Netflix and Hulu had a little bit of everything, and because you don't, 90% of the people who watching stuff are like, it's like I said, hey, you need to go see Top Secret. You're going to do what? You're going to go to streaming service and type to see where you can find it to watch it, right?
yeah,
Well, somebody half remembers a TV show or a movie that they watched as a little kid, you know, and they're like, "Oh man, this was so good when I was a kid. Let me see if I can find it." And try to find it, and they're able to find it in places like, most of the time they can find it on Netflix or Hulu or something like that, because it's a great big smorgasbord of various IPs in one spot, and thus they make their money. Yeah, American Cyborg that's the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? The American Cyborg, or was that the other one? And Song of the South, you could find, up until just this past year, you could find Song of the South in other countries. Because had a friend of mine said that they could actually buy it while they're in the UK. No, I was talking about Song of the South. They were able to find it for sale on VHS and DVDs in other English speaking countries, but it's not allowed to be sold here in the United States. And the fact that they're not putting it on their streaming service is another one of those holy shit, you got to be kidding me. But I've had friends of mine said that you can find it on YouTube. And I'm like,
y'all talking about American Cyborg Steel Warrior?
oh no, I was talking about finding Song of the South, and then he said that he was having a trouble finding American Cyborg.
You could have 1994 R-rated science fiction movie, American Cyborg Steel Warrior. It's on Prime Video, Apple TV, and YouTube.
Yeah, there's several really good movies, man, and that yeah. But like I said, it's if they really wanted to make their money back, that's what they should do. You know, if they're gonna have a streaming service that's just their stuff, put your entire catalog on it. Don't censor it, because we saw on Disney Plus where they were doing that shit, and it caused a lot of people to say, "Up yours, we're gone," boop, and off they went. And just whenever you censor art, it's the equivalent of where they had people wanting to go and put stuff to cover up the nude statues and stuff.
Yeah.
Or had people wanting to paint over the Rubens and all these masterwork artwork. You know, we got to go paint clothes on these naked bodies. It's the same thing. By doing that, you're ruining the art. And we've got to get past the fact that people have become so thin-skinned and uber sensitive that they're triggered by everything.
If they get if their skin gets any thinner, they ain't gonna have any skin.
Some of these people don't. That's the problem. And I mean, it's long past. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That stuff's gotten thrown out the door. Even countries are out there passing laws that's doing that stuff. You know, if you say something that hurts somebody's feelings, that can be classified as a hate crime, and you can go to jail in Europe. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I'm just looking at this stuff and going, oh God. But like they say, it's darkest before the dawn. And there are places where people are starting to wake up and saying, you've gone too far. It's like the people that have been talking about, if this goes through in the UK to where white people, especially white men, whenever they go before the courts, they're going to get a much stricter and harsher sentence than anybody else is going to get. And the reasoning they had behind that was so ridiculous, it wasn't even funny. And I'm like going, what the hell's wrong with you people? And, but yeah, well, I think we've covered the two biggies for today. Was Coyote versus Acme and the passing of Val Kilmer. And a little bit on Richard Chamberlain. Yeah. I'm still broken up about the death of Val Kilmer. I mean, seeing as how much this has got me broken up, I'm dreading the day when we get told that Bruce Willis has passed.
Yeah.
Or when William Shatner passes. Oh God, that's gonna be bad.
Yeah, that's gonna suck.
Well, I remember crying for a week when Leonard Nimoy died.
Yeah.
And
I vaguely remember that. Chuck Norris, yeah. there's going to
Chuck
be a
Norris.
lot of there's going to be a lot of people shocked when that happens.
Well, when Chuck Norris dies, that's one of those. That's literally going to be one of those things where people are going to start lining up and going, "It's end times. We're about to die."
Yeah. Well, it'll be one of those things where people will say Chuck Norris death didn't take Chuck Norris. He went along willingly.
Yeah. I'm just damn. I don't want to think about Chuck passing, man. Uh, I still remember. I have a friend of mine that got to meet Chuck Norris a long, long time ago. Oh, yeah, Chuck Norris didn't die. The rest of the world just got left behind.
I love that. I actually have a book that was written by Chuck Norris with a bunch of Chuck Norrisisms in it.
Yeah. Well,
Let me
Chuck
see if
Norris, he's got a really good sense of humor, you know?
Yeah.
And like Val Kilmer, he is who you see, you know? And like I said, we lost him way too young at 64, man. Or 65, I should say.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. It really does, because the world was a better place with him in it. When he was when he was acting full time, he was making some of the best movies out there. Uh, he had the range of doing drama. He had the range of doing comedy. He had the range of doing music, singing, dancing, the whole nine. He
Yeah.
was the classical movie star of. A lot of people were sitting there saying that Tom Cruise is the last movie star. No, he's not. He could be the last action star. That works better for the type of movies that Tom Cruise does.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer was one of those actors that could do it all. He could sing, he could dance, he could act, he could tell jokes.
And even then, him being the last one isn't true either, because we still have Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. He can't sing, he can't dance. Oh. But like I said,
yeah, there's going to be a lot of people upset when some of these older stars go.
Yeah.
I remember. I don't know if you know who Jason David Frank is, but a lot of '90s kids, myself included, were really upset when he passed.
Wasn't he the Green Ranger?
Yes.
Yeah,
he was the face. He was the face of Power Rangers.
Yeah,
and
I still remember that.
Yeah, and he ended up.
I was never into the Power Rangers, but I knew him to be a good, honest, decent person.
Yeah.
And when I heard that he had died, it broke me. I was like, what? And I felt for all the Power Rangers fans, because, like I said, the guy was a good guy.
Yeah, I heard so many stories of what an amazing person he was. And he's one of those people that I really wish I could have met.
No, one of the guys that I used to hang out with all the time, who went to conventions all across the country, he had met him at several conventions, and he said that they weren't friends, but they were con friends, i.e., every now and again you'd see him at a con, you'd be like, hi, hey, what's up? Then you'd get caught up, might go out, eat something together, go to the bar, drink something, and eat a burger at the same time while you're sitting there talking and catching up. And he's like, the guy was who he seemed to be. He was a kind-hearted person. And when he passed, and all the stuff that was going on in his life at the time, that that really upset me because, well, I've been used, abused, and thrown away by the women in my life. So I knew where the dude was coming from and felt bad for him. And then I got really upset whenever this woman was sitting there trying to make herself out to be the victim. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny Depp, yeah, he can sing and he can dance, but it's been so long since he's done that stuff in a movie format.
Yeah, and he gave up after the whole Amber Heard thing.
Yeah. And Timothy Chalamet, yeah, he's a good actor. I like Timothy Chalamet. He's one of the reasons he one of the reasons why I can't stand Zendaya is how she destroyed. In my mind, she destroyed Dune and Dune 2, especially the ending of Dune 2. She destroyed it because up until then, they had stuck as close to the books as I had seen. I mean, the only thing that stuck closer to the books was the miniseries of Dune that they had on the Sci-Fi Channel. And
Yeah. To answer Cash's chat just now, you say the age of stars is over for now. The most relevant star we have right now is Rachel Zegler, and she's only relevant for all the wrong reasons.
yeah.
That is how low we've sunk.
Well, we do have some actors and actresses that are out there that are truly stars that treat their fans with respect. You know, you got Chris Pratt, and he actually came out the talking about the fact that even if it cost him roles, he is not going to deny the fact he's a Christian. He stood up. He stood up for it. And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to watch anything you do, you know, because he's willing to stand up for what he believes in. The difference is he's not attacking the other side.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Now you have on the other side of that, you have people like one of my favorite actors, Samuel L. Jackson, who is an amazing actor. He's a really talented guy, but then you meet him in person and you wish you hadn't.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But it's like Ricky Gervais, the guy that played House, Hugh Laurie. You know, I've heard both good things and bad things about them in their, you know, outside of being in front of the camera, especially when it came to religious people and how they're atheist and they're very vocal about it. I mean, John Carlin, he was an atheist and could be very rude about being an atheist. Yeah. But he focused his rudeness on organized religion and not on religious people. That was the difference with him. But it's just one of those things, you know, you just look at it and like, oh, shoot, these people don't know what the hell they're doing. Hey, behave. You behave. No bites. Sorry, the cat's trying to bite me.
Hi, kitty.
But anywho, let's go ahead and get ready to call it a night. Everybody, just remember, share the things you love with others. Because by sharing the things we love, we're sharing love. This world needs more love in it. And remember what I said last time. When you've been broken and you live in the darkness, all you do is seek out the light and you want to protect it and you want to promote it. That to me is what love is all about. Is protecting it, promoting it, sharing it. So share the things that you love with others. Let people know they're not alone, that they are loved. And it will hopefully make this world a better place. Because, in all honesty, with what I'm seeing going on around the world, around this country right now, we really need people sharing the love. Because right now, you've got people that are just sharing hate, irrational hate, and it's going to do nothing but make things worse. And we've got to stop it. And the only thing I can think of to stop it is showing everybody who's not blinded by the irrational hatred who the real fascists are, the real authoritarians are, the real purveyors of hate are. It's not us. And the only way we can show that is by sharing what we love, showing that we love others, and that we're willing to take the chance to hold out our hands and say, I love you, brother. I love you, sister. Don't yell at me. I'm not yelling at you. And maybe, just maybe, we might not wake up the irrational ones, but we might wake up the ones that still, deep down, have common sense. So, I love you all, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.